After a long-term relationship betrayal, no amount of logic can convince your nervous system that you are safe. And I learned this the hard way. And in fact, I took it into a completely new relationship. I was in a long-term relationship for 7 years, and that relationship ended when that other person fell in love with somebody else. And I was crushed, absolutely crushed. And I remember, and this is the sad part, I remember a couple years prior to all of this going down, like falling on the floor crying and calling my mom, because deep down in my heart, I didn't feel like I was supposed to be in this relationship, and I didn't know how to get out of it. I loved this person with all of my heart, but I knew we were not right for each other. And I remember thinking, I'm gonna stay. I'm just gonna stay because I don't want to hurt the other person. And it took me a long time to realize, way after the whole affair thing happened, that that was God's plan. God knew that I didn't want to be in that relationship, that that was not my person. And God said, you know what? If you're not gonna do it, I'm gonna find a way. And boom, affair happened, and my world came crashing down. Just as a sidebar before I continue the story, what might seem like hardship in the moment can sometimes just be God's way of propelling you to that next tier or that next level, or helping you move into the life that you are actually meant for. Anyway, we were in a relationship for 7 years, 7+ years. They had an affair. I had suspected months prior to them even confessing it to me. I remember they had sat me down at a very popular restaurant, and they looked, echo, off. The bread is done. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So where was I? They sat me down at a very popular restaurant, and I remember them looking at me from across the booth, and they basically said, listen, if we are going to continue on with our relationship, I have to let you know something. And I said, what is that? And she said, I have fallen in love with somebody else. And I don't even know how to describe it. When your tonsils drop into your stomach is how it felt. I felt like I had been sucker punched. And I immediately knew who they were talking about. And I even said the name to them, and they said yes. And I'm shaking. I'm literally shaking at the table, and my voice is quivering, and tears are starting to stream down my face in public. And I said, well, if we are going to continue our relationship, you can never talk to this person ever again. And they looked me dead in the eye, and they, with almost tears in their eyes, said, don't make me do that. And I thought you just opened up the conversation with saying, if we're going to move on with our relationship, you and I need to let you know what has been going on. And I took that as, great. Now we're going to lay some boundaries. I don't know what's going to happen from here, but all I know is you can never talk to this person again. And they looked at me and said, that's not going to happen. And after that, they confessed to me that they had never felt like this for anyone, including myself. And I don't even know where to go from here. It was just, I just remember shaking. And I remember that at the time, in all of my sadness and sorrow right then and there, as I'm crying and I'm asking questions and I'm figuring out, like, how did this happen and when did this happen, which all took place in like 10 minutes. That was it. They looked across the table from me and they confessed something else to me. And I will take that to my grave. I will never tell anybody what they confessed. But after the fact, after I had been able to sort of process what had happened, my thought about that extra confession was that they wanted me to feel sorry for them in the moment. They did not care about my feelings. They wanted to flip the script so that I would feel empathy and compassion for them. Because in that moment when they confessed that extra thing to me, I remember feeling such empathy for them and such sadness for them that I remember grabbing their hand from across the table and holding it and just saying, I am so sorry. And now that I'm looking back, I can't even imagine how manipulative you would have to be in order to do that to somebody in that context. And then no more than like 3 minutes later, they said, we have to go because I don't know how I'm going to break this to my family, and I need to drop you off at your mom's, and I need to go so that I can go. And that was just another example of them thinking about their feelings or trying to twist it or turn it in a way to make me feel empathetic for them, that they had to break this terrible news to their family and they didn't know how they were going to handle it and deal with it. And I needed to feel compassion for them. And yes, please drop me off because I know you have this terrible conversation you're going to have with your friends and family about this affair that you have. And I'm, again, looking back, I'm thinking to myself, what a narcissistic piece of, anyway. So after that, I remember weeping for like 2 weeks. I didn't have a car. We had recently moved back from another state, back home from another state. I had been waitressing in a restaurant. I no longer had that job. And I remember just weeping on the sofa, feeling like that person had died, because I wasn't going to speak to them ever again. They were in my life at one moment. They dropped me off at my mother's. They took the car and I was just sort of left. And after I was able to gather myself, after a couple of weeks, I remember thinking, I am going to feel every feeling that I have about this situation so that I can really mourn and grieve and feel this betrayal so that I don't have anything left behind. And I remember I would do my work. I was starting a soap business. I was doing my work for 10 hours a day. And then at nighttime, when I had a chance to breathe, I would just hide my head underneath the covers and I would weep, and I would feel it. And I would almost meditate, feeling those hurt feelings so much, and seeing that person in my mind, and seeing that person with the person they had an affair with in my mind, and just making sure that I felt every single possible thing that I could feel, because I wanted to exhaust all of those feelings. And I thought I did. And I went into the next 2 years of my life like a whole new person. I was thriving. I was volunteering. I got my mojo back, so to speak. I was working on my little apothecary business. I was running farmers markets. I was so alive. I felt so alive and so free for the first time in 7-8 years. I thought I came out of that relationship unscathed. And the truth is, I didn't. Because once you put me in another scenario, like a relationship, which I hadn't been in 2 years, only then did I realize that I was not truly healed from my past relationship. I didn't care about that person anymore. I don't mean not care. You know, you'll always love all the people in your life that come into your life. But I didn't have any feelings about that person anymore. I didn't have any feelings about what they had done in that relationship as far as the affair goes. I didn't have any feelings regarding that whole period anymore. Negative feelings. I had none of it. But other things started to manifest in my new relationship, other feelings that I had never felt before in my entire life. I just realized I'm not even looking at the camera. I'm looking at myself on the camera instead of actually like the little camera hole. Sorry about that. That I had never felt in my entire life, like trust issues, insecurities, all these triggering feelings started popping up. And I thought, what is this? What is going on? Your nervous system will hold on to junk that you're not even consciously aware of. And until you go through or actually feel those feelings, you cannot get past those feelings. I could not heal from what my significant other had done as far as the affair goes until I put myself in that similar situation, a relationship. It's just my personal experience, but I think it is a truism. You cannot heal from whatever triggering, shocking, tragic, traumatic thing has happened in your life until you get a chance to practice on something that is similar, such as a relationship. So for instance, I went straight from affair to feeling every single bit of emotion, thinking I was over it, but I was by myself. There was nothing to trigger me. I thought I had healed until I entered into a new relationship and I'm like, ugh, oh, why do I feel nauseous in the stomach? What's that? Oh, okay. Am I having an insecurity right now? Am I having a trust issue right now? What is going on? And that new relationship I was in, I'm currently married to that man. And for me personally, you have to do the work on your own. I had to feel those triggering moments when something would trigger me. A lot of times I would lash out. I didn't even know why I was lashing out. I would accuse him of things that he was not guilty of. And the patience of this man, I cannot tell you. But in combination with his patience and me recognizing that a lot of my fears and triggers and anxieties and insecurities were irrational is what allowed me to heal. I mean, it was so bad that if his phone buzzed, I would get a twinge in my stomach, or my eyes and ears would perk up. I would just assume the worst. I would assume that he was doing something not on the up and up. But one of the ways that I healed from that is after many years, and I'm talking many years, recognizing anytime that a trigger would happen, something would trigger me or whatever, I would have to take a step back and I would feel the feeling and I would go, okay, my gut, I feel nauseous right now. I don't feel trusting. I feel very insecure in this situation. I want to lash out at him. And I needed to logically tell myself, no, you're not going to lash out. You're allowed to feel the feelings. You're allowed to think he's doing something seedy or something secret behind your back, but you need to take a step back and feel the feelings alone. Because I tell you, after an hour, 2 hours, a couple of days, I would recognize that I was being irrational. And I just had to connect my brain with my nervous system. Day after day, week after week, year after year. Every time it would happen, I'd have to take a step back. I'd have to feel the feelings, like really feel them, let them wash over me. And then 2 hours later, 2 days later, a week later, after I didn't have the feelings anymore, literally say out loud, all right, brain, all right, Alex, you just proved to yourself nothing was going on. Nervous system, let's take it back a step next time. And then the next time I might get a little twinge in my stomach, but it wasn't as bad, or it didn't last as long. And then 6 months later, I would get another twinge in my stomach, but it wasn't as bad and it didn't last as long. And then the next time I would get a twinge in my stomach wasn't for 8 months. And then the next time I would get a twinge in my stomach wasn't for a year. Before I knew it, not only were the sickening, mistrusting feelings in my body getting less and less and less and more muted and more muted and more muted, but they were getting farther apart until I have an episode like once every 18 months now where something might trigger me. But now I'm just so self-aware of that actually just being an involuntary reaction of my nervous system based on some shocking, traumatic event, emotional event that happened to me 8, 9, 10 years ago, that it doesn't even faze me anymore. So this is just to say, if you have ever gone through something like this, you can absolutely get through it. And my number one piece of advice is to feel the feelings as much as you can feel them. Don't try to squash them down, because I really do think that will just string things out even longer. And now that I'm in my early 40s, God, I have the confidence of a bull. I don't know how else to describe it to you, but I'm telling you, post 40 can be really awesome. Rebuilding after 40 can be tough, but once you get there, it's great. Okay, I don't even know how to end this video. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Mwah.